The Caribbean states of Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia held a roundtable discussion with U.S. officials led by the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Treasury on the 25th of February to discuss the challenges and threats faced by Caribbean citizenship by investment programs, according to an OECS press release. All of the Prime Ministers represented and Citizenship by Investment Unit heads were in attendance alongside other relevant members of their parties, as they engaged in what was described as a frank discussion with a number of U.S. government officials regarding certain specifics of the Citizenship by Investment Programs, CIPs. The meeting, which took place in St. Kitts and Nevis, concluded with the Caribbean Five agreeing to 6 significant stipulations for their CIPs as proposed by the Americans. These include collective agreement on the treatment of denials, conducting interviews with applicants, whether virtual or in person. Each jurisdiction will run checks on each applicant with the Financial Intelligence Unit of its respective country, audit the programs annually or every 2 years in accordance with international accepted standards, request law enforcement assistance in retrieving revoked or recalled passports, and suspend processing applications from Russians and Belarusians. 4 jurisdictions have already suspended applications, and Grenada, which processes applications from Russians and Belarusians, with enhanced due diligence, will suspend processing new applications from Russia and Belarus from the 31st of March. The attendees agreed to convene a technical discussion to assess the status of implementing these new principles within the next 4 to 6 months. The joint press release made clear that the Americans recognize that the Caribbean CIPs provided a legitimate service and have assisted in the survival of participating economies, and furthermore that such revenues had been invaluable in making the Eastern Caribbean states more economically resilient in the face of natural disasters and other external shocks. The conclave also agreed to acknowledge that the dismantling of the region's CIPs would severely compromise the prosperity and prospects of the countries, triggering a plethora of negative social consequences domestically and potentially leading to an upsurge in criminality, among other pathologies. According to the joint statement, the CBI states have requested that the Americans assist in facilitating a similar agreement on the same 6 principles, also with the European Union and the United Kingdom. Andre Huey, SKN Newsline.
Planning and design works are in progress for the St. Peter's Main Road Rehabilitation Project, for which an initial $7 million were allocated in the 2023 budget. Minister of Infrastructure Conrys Maynard updated the public in the recent National Assembly sitting, indicating that the road works would include widening of some sections of the road, improvements and installation of drainage, the construction of sidewalks and the leveling of some sections. The St. Peter's Main Road has deteriorated significantly but was not included in the Island Main Road Rehabilitation Project done under the previous government, although it is one of the most heavily used roads on the island. Maynard called for patience as the planning process continues.
The process to begin work is sometimes long and invisible. This is the part where the public does not see all of the works and planning that has to go into this process. A scope of works has to be developed. Contractors and consultants have to receive tender documents. They have to be given time to tender, usually 6 weeks minimum for a project of this size. There has to be coordination with utilities such as the cable, the flow, skeleton, water, to identify their underground and above ground assets to ensure they will fit into the new road infrastructure. Home and property assessments have to be done for properties that are generally within 100 feet of the road to track any adverse effects of the vibration caused by the rollers. All of these things, Madam Speaker, will take time. And so I urge and ask for some patience as this process continues.
Meanwhile, Maynard said that once the asphalt plant has been repaired, temporary repairs will be done on the St. Peter's Main Road to keep it in drivable condition leading into the rehabilitation project.
Hi, Tashawn Wilkin, the first Assistant Director here at MSR Media and a proud native of St. Kitts and Nevis. MSR Media established itself in the Federation 2 years ago, and in that time, we have produced 9 films in our beautiful nation with international movie stars such as Elizabeth Hurley, Kelsey Grammer, Malin Ackerman, Connie Nielsen, and country music superstar Billy Ray Cyrus, seen by millions of people and promoting our island all over the world. MSR has recently purchased the OTI Hotel, now called the MSR Hotel, which will be our new headquarters and creative hub in the Federation. We are now expanding, and there's a job for you. So, if you want to work behind the scenes on a film set, send an email to jobs@msrmediaskn.com. We have 200 jobs for the 6 movies we are producing this year. Now, if you're interested in the world of visual effects, we are creating a VFX company. Because in the world of making movies, computer-generated images are crucial. So if you have computer skills and if you want a job in the high-tech business, please contact us as we are looking to hire 50 people with the computer skills for our new VFX division. There are lots of opportunities at MSR Media with 200 jobs to fill. So email your resume to jobs@msrmediaskn.com and join the MSR family today.
The SKN Newsline website now offers you more news. Log on to www.sknnewsline.com for local, regional, and international news. You can also watch the latest newscast and keep abreast with news in sports, all from sknnewsline.com. That's www.sknnewsline.com. News at your fingertips. Nestled between evergreen mountains and the Caribbean Sea on the island of St. Kitts is the Mill House Guest House and Convention Center. With breathtaking views, a rugged, beautiful shoreline, and immaculate manicured gardens make this the perfect location for your holiday, event, or wedding. With a large convention center, apartments with balconies providing stunning views, and a secluded cottage for larger family groups or honeymooning couples looking for some privacy. We have something for everyone. Book your stay at www.millhouseskn.com or visit our Facebook page, the Mill House Guest House and Convention Center, an oasis of tranquility.
Online radio has never been this great. It's Voice of the Caribbean Radio at voiceofthecaribbean.net. Tune into Voice of the Caribbean Radio for great Caribbean programs, news, entertainment, sports, and current affairs. Wake up each morning and be inspired with One Day at a Time with Kim Huey. Stay abreast with news across the Caribbean and internationally with the Caribbean News Hour, and be entertained with shows like Reggaeville, Caribbean Classics, and Jive Music Show. Visit our website, download our Android mobile app, or listen us on TuneIn Radio. There is so much more on Voice of the Caribbean Radio, reaching the Caribbean and beyond. Check website or app for program schedule.
Services for women and children who experience domestic or gender-based violence will benefit from a newly updated Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, between the Government of St. Kitts and Nevis and the Garden of Rebirth. The new MO was signed on Wednesday, March 8, during a brief ceremony at the Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities housed in the Cable Building. It lays out the terms of the partnership between the two parties. The signing was symbolically done on International Women's Day. Minister of State responsible for Gender Affairs, Iseline Phillip, welcomed the updated terms, noting that the government cherishes its relationship with civil society.
For the Department of Gender Affairs, we are, as you know, a government entity. We're not always able to provide all of the resources and the structures that we need to be able to support and to combat our social problems like gender-based violence and domestic violence. And so we lean a lot on our civil society organizations and our NGOs to be able to fill gaps that government just cannot get to at this point in time. And so we are excited, well, I'm certainly excited that we have an opportunity now to be able to sign a new and updated Memorandum of Understanding with the Garden of Rebirth, which is an organization that does provide shelter services for women and children who come into or experience gender-based violence and are looking for a safe space to go to in order to exit situations of violence and abuse from their homes. So really grateful to be here. And so the document that we will be signing this morning really just kind of lays out the terms of the partnership that we have with Garden of Rebirth, and I'm hoping that, with continued discussions, that we'll be able to continue evolving with the relationship, evolving in the way that we work together.
Mrs. Etsu Bradshaw Keynes, founder and chief executive officer, CEO of Garden of Rebirth, noted that the organization offers several services that can be used to strengthen persons.
I want to add, and I know you mentioned, Minister, that we are a shelter. We are not just a shelter. We are a center that has branched out into empowerment trainings. We have a lot of projects. We have funding that we have sitting there for programs that we hope we can partner with your ministries, youth, men, women. We write grants all the time, and we are very, very successful. So I would, also let the ministry know that we have funding for training in gender-based violence that you can take advantage of. We also have a project that's coming up, which is a hydroponics project. It was supposed to be housed at the center, but we have decided that we should not just hog it, as we would say, for the residents, because they don't stay with us forever. So, and people can't come into the center to participate. So we will be placing this project outside. And so here's an opportunity for you to send your women so that they can learn skills in hydroponics. And we're hoping to spread out into aquaponics.
The MO was signed by Virgil Jeffers, Director of Gender Affairs, Minister of State Philip, and Mrs. Bradshaw Keynes. Rita Cable also signed as a witness.
As we begin to do our part to increase women's footprint in the world of technology, we have to close all gaps in digital access and skills, support women and girls in STEM, create tech that meets the needs of women and girls, and address technology-facilitated gender-based violence. These are the words of Nevis's Minister of Gender Affairs, Janelle Nisbet, on the occasion of International Women's Day, observed on Wednesday.
The number of girls and women opting to study disciplines related to technology is small, and consequently, women and girls are severely underrepresented in technology-based careers. One of the drivers behind this inequality is that there is insufficient exposure to technology at a young age. Girls are often not provided with the opportunity to explore and experiment with technology because of traditional, stereotypical ideologies. These stereotypes often lower the aspiration of women and girls in technology.
The minister said currently women make up a mere 28% of the workforce in science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM. The gender gaps are particularly high in some of the fastest growing and highest paid jobs of the future, like computer science and engineering. She said only 21% of engineering majors and 19% of computer science majors are women. The theme for International Women's Day 2023 is Digital, Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality. I'm Andre Huey for SKN Newsline.
It's beautiful. He took one look at you and the angels started singing.
Another wonderful day.
What would you say about staying here for a few months or like a year, just so that we can be together again and just live and laugh and have fun and breathe?
Why are you hiding out on a little Caribbean island, singing in a beach bar?
When I came here, I was at peace, and I never left.
This is the beating heart of Nevis. This is what grounds me, what feeds my soul. It's where I found myself.
I hope your life here will be full of joy. Love this island, my son. She will give you more than you can imagine.
The SKN Newsline website now offers you more news. Log on to www.sknnewsline.com for local, regional, and international news. You can also watch the latest newscast and keep abreast with news in sports, all from sknnewsline.com. That's www.sknnewsline.com. News at your fingertips.
Online radio has never been this great. It's Voice of the Caribbean Radio at voiceofthecaribbean.net. Tune into Voice of the Caribbean Radio for great Caribbean programs, news, entertainment, sports, and current affairs. Wake up each morning and be inspired with One Day at a Time with Kim Huey. Stay abreast with news across the Caribbean and internationally with the Caribbean News Hour, and be entertained with shows like Reggaeville, Caribbean Classics, and Jive Music Show. Visit our website, download our Android mobile app, or listen us on TuneIn Radio. There is so much more on Voice of the Caribbean Radio, reaching the Caribbean and beyond. Check website or app for program schedule.
If you're looking for a place to host that special event, conference, meeting, social event, party, whatever the occasion, your best option is the Millhouse Convention Center in Palmetto Point, St. Kitts. Located on the picturesque Garvey's Estate, the Millhouse Guesthouse Convention Center has enough space for outdoor events overlooking the Caribbean Sea. If you're looking indoors, the center is equipped with amenities needed to make your event a success. And by combining both spaces, you're sure to have a memorable event, no matter the occasion. Call the offices at Millhouse Guesthouse and Convention Center to book your next event on simply the most beautiful place in St. Kitts. Call 668-1392. Millhouse Convention Center at Garvey's Estate, Palmetto Point, St. Kitts. Making your event memorable.
Today, ladies and gentlemen, they will be signing to say that they would receive and acknowledge the legal rights to operate on the sacramental authorization, where this document would have been signed originally by the chairman, Ambassador Joseph, and also our Minister of Legal Affairs, Mr. Stedroy Benjamin.
Signatures affixed to documents concretizing a momentous occasion for the country. It gives Rastafari the right in law to use cannabis as a sacrament. Prime Minister Honorable Gaston Brown says it shows the commitment of his administration to inclusiveness.
No group of individuals, based on the economic standing, their belief, their religious practices, that any group is marginalized in this country. We believe strongly in inclusivity and equality of opportunity and justice. And certainly as your Prime Minister, I will continue to champion those causes on behalf of our people. And not only here in Antigua and Barbuda, but certainly within the wider Caribbean region.
Chairman of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority, Ambassador Davin Joseph, says efforts will continue to be made to foster greater economic benefits from cannabis.
The government will continue to encourage you to look at the business aspect of this product so that you can become self-sufficient and economically sustainable. I just want to mention that in this day of celebration of what we're doing now.
The three registered Rastafari groups are the Naibingi Theocracy Movement, the One Love Community, and Ras Freeman Foundation. A prominent member of the community has praised Prime Minister Brown and his administration for making this possible.
I feel that you made a great step forward, sir, and you're my Prime Minister for life, for right now. You understand me? Because you've been doing a lot of great work, something you people don't know about, and miss you for your vision, come up on the same page. The money page. I rest my case.
While Havana, the capital, is mainly spared, Cubans throughout the country's provinces are facing power cuts.
Michel Vega says he often has to put up with 6-hour blackouts.
When the lights go out, you can't sleep until it comes back. I have an 8-year-old child who has to go to school the next day, so I have to be by his side, keeping the mosquitoes at bay so he can sleep.
It's an issue for the workforce too. In the all-important agriculture sector, production relies on power.
We can't crush sugarcane because we need electricity, and so if there's no electricity, we can't mill. The cane rots, you can't work, you can't earn money.
Experts say it's a problem that's been brewing for years.
Cuba's electric grid is old. It's more than 35 to 40 years that's been operating. So it's old, it's tired, it's inefficient, it's obsolete. The system of the 8 thermoelectric power plants and 20 units, right now, for example, only about 40% are working and operating.
The island needs to update its rickety infrastructure, but it doesn't have the money. Cuba's energy crisis stems from its deep economic crisis. An inefficient planned economy and fallout from the pandemic are key factors. But economists say US sanctions make a bad situation worse, starving the country of billions of dollars in revenue. Now that's less money to import fuel, to build new power plants, and to invest in renewables. The Communist Party wants to avoid a repeat of the summer 2021 protests, when tens of thousands hit the streets across the island. Those protests started after a 12-hour power cut in a small westerly town. And then last August, lightning struck the country's main fuel depot, causing an inferno and widespread blackouts. By last October, the average Cuban household was going 10 hours a day without electricity. Since then, Cuba has leased more floating power stations from Turkey. An expensive band-aid solution, analysts say, but one that pumps more megawatts into the system in the short term. And Russia is sending more petroleum to Cuba to make up for Ukraine-related sanctions imposed by the US and Europe. It's helping, but summer, where energy demand goes up, is on the way. And with blackouts still a common occurrence, and with more shortages of both electricity and liquefied gas expected, some people here are reverting to charcoal. Their patience is being tested. Ed Augustin, Al Jazeera, Camagüey, Cuba.
Now to the latest developments in the deadly kidnapping of 4 Americans in Mexico. NBC News has learned from a law enforcement source familiar with the matter that a 5th person was on that road trip this morning. We're getting new details on that. And just last night, a vigil for the group was held at a church in Scranton, South Carolina, a town near the victim's hometown of Lake City. The community mourned the lives lost and lifted the survivors up in prayer.
This could have been any of us. This could have been any of our children, it could have been my son or my daughter. So we didn't come here tonight to point fingers or judge anybody, but yet we're going to pray that God will hold these families, that God will bless them in this time.
NBC News correspondent Ellison Barber joins us now from Lake City with the latest on all this. Ellison, good morning. So I know you were at the vigil last night. What exactly did you hear from the people who attended?
Hayes and Clay at Lake City, which, as you said, is the hometown of all 4 victims. It's a really small community. The population here is less than 6,000, so it's not hard to find people who know of the victims or know their parents or are in some way connected to them. This is something that has hit this community very hard because it is so small, because it is so close-knit. What we kept hearing from people is just absolute shock that something like this could happen to people they know from such a small community. They say again and again that they are devastated for the families whose loved ones went on this journey and then never came back, and they are also relieved and grateful that some of them survived. Listen.
The connections are very intertwined. We all went to school together. Lake City is a small community. It's just tragic. We're sad. The whole community is sad. Nobody could get any sleep. And we're glad for the 2 survivors, and we're mourning the deaths of the 2 that were lost.
everyone that we have spoken to, they say again and again that these 4 individuals, they were super close. They say even from childhood, you would often see all 4 of them together. They weren't surprised that they all had taken this journey as a group, as a unit. One person said she'd seen people on social media saying, why would so many adults be going on this one trip together? And she said, look, a lot of us have Gullah Geechee heritage. And she said, what we are taught by elders in our community is that we stick together and we travel together, in part for our own safety, but just because culturally speaking, this is a community that is very tight, that tries to look out for one another. And one person said to me, if I was driving 45 minutes, I would pick up the phone. I would call a first cousin and say, hey, I'm going to this city. Will you come with me? So they weren't surprised that they were all together, particularly these 4, but they are absolutely shocked that something like this could happen to people they know. Zinclay?
I mean, truly shocking. And the big development now is that we know there was a 5th person who went along for the trip. Ellison, what information do we have on who that person is and why they were not with the group when the other 4 were kidnapped?
So a law enforcement official who is close to this case is telling NBC News that this 5th individual traveled with the group, but then did not cross into Mexico because she lacked the proper documentation. There is a Facebook Live video that one of the surviving victims, Eric Williams, who was shot in the leg, he posted on Facebook at some point during this journey, and you can see that 5th person sleeping in the back of the car as they're making this long trek to Mexico. She has since identified herself in conversations, text messages with the Associated Press. She says that she stayed at a hotel on the other side of the border and that she was actually expecting everyone to be back within about 15 minutes. She said that she thought her friends were going to take Latavia McGee to get her cosmetic procedure and then come back to the hotel. She said she had all of their luggage at the hotel, but then didn't hear from them and started to get worried and notified local police that her friends had gone into Mexico and then had not come back. Zinclay?
So devastating. A lot to follow in this investigation. Ellison Barber, thank you.
The gas leak ended months ago, but the answers as to who carried out the attacks on the Nord Stream pipelines may at last be surfacing. Reports in the US and now the German media suggest an anti-Russian government group based in Ukraine was responsible. According to the German reporting, 6 people, all carrying forged passports, boarded a rented yacht at the German port of Rostock on the 6th of September last year. The yacht sailed up the coast to the town of Vikandars and onto the tiny Danish island of Christiansø, close to the explosions that hit the pipelines on the 27th of September. Almost immediately, Western nations suggested Russia might have sabotaged its own pipelines to create further chaos in Europe's energy markets. Russia accused the United States of being behind it, to remove Russian economic leverage over Germany, a theory endorsed last month in a report by the investigative journalist Seymour Hersh. Now, these revelations becoming a major topic of discussion at Wednesday's European Union Defence Ministers Summit in Sweden.
There are ongoing national investigations, and I think it's right to wait until those are finalized before we say anything more about who was behind.
That has been the line from Western nations since the attack last September. Some now suggest it was a deliberate one, to shield Kyiv as it sought more weaponry from Germany, the country from where, without its knowledge, the attack was reportedly launched.
I know the reports about this investigation. I read that with great interest. And we have to distinguish clearly, yes, whether it was a Ukrainian group, so it could have been on Ukrainian behalf, or a pro-Ukrainian one without the knowledge of the government. But I caution against jumping to conclusions.
Pistorius also said it could have been a Russian false flag operation. Ukraine continues to deny involvement.
For me, it's a little bit strange story because it's not. This story is nothing with us, and I think that investigation of official authorities will describe every details, because it's like a compliment for our special forces, but this is not our activity.
If this attack can be proven to have been the work of a pro-Ukrainian group, even if not the Ukrainian state, that could still prove tricky for a German government needing to bolster falling public support for its military backing of Ukraine. These latest leaks have emerged well after Germany pledged advanced air defense and tanks to Kyiv. Harry Fawcett, Al Jazeera.
Now, with the Trinidad and Tobago Premier Football League set to kick off on March 10th, TTT Sport gets you ready for the return of pro football at venues throughout the country. In focus tonight, Mova Caledonia United. This is First Team on TTT Sport.
Right now we getting there, you know, everybody in our preparation mode right now, so I think by the 11th we'll be ready to go. Well, I don't think it's a short time to prepare because we were kind of ahead of the game. I mean, we've been working out long before Carnival, so I think it's just for the players to understand their role and function, and we just maintain the standard. How we prepare the team is based on how we play our philosophy, so it's just now for the guys to take what we do in practice and put it into the game. We're going to take it one game at a time, and we're going to do it by the first round based on where we are in the standings, and then after that we will really set goals for where we want to be. This short tournament here, there's no promotion or demotion, but it gives us a chance to work on certain things we want to work on going forward.
I mean, it's a blessing to be back here. It's been a while, 3 years, almost 3 years I could say. Blessing to be back out here, man. Nothing was going on for me. Had nothing, no job, nothing. So this is a blessing to be back out here.
Coming out of the train, the quality wasn't up to mark, and as we come along, we start to get the quality and everything coming together. I think the bright spot got to be all a collective. You know, you have one good individual player, but collectively I think going to be in the whole group. And we're going to use a lot of different styles of play in terms of the formation, and just want to approach it high intensity, you know, playing good, attractive Caledonian football and just trying to win every game.
Yeah, the team in good spirits, man. Coming with the young players, they might feel, you know, a bit more than they're supposed to know, but with the help of the senior players, they will get there, man.
To approach it with our winning mindset, to come out to be the best team, because we don't know the goal we want to accomplish. We want to be in the top 2 to qualify for the CONCACAF, so we have to come with our winning mindset and a fighting mindset to go in every game, go be our finals. Come out and watch Caledonia play, you know. We're going to be playing attractive football, Caledonia football, and we're going to give our 100% every day.
Welcome to the SKN Newsline Weather Report. I am Janil Boone. Here is a look at the forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis. For a more detailed weather report, visit our website at www.sknnewsline.com.